Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April Board of Education meeting. It is 7:01, and Ms. Marson, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mrs. Barker,
Here.
Mrs. Fairgrieve,
Here.
Mr. Lackner,
Here.
Mrs. McCabe,
Here.
Mr. McNally,
Here.
Miss Weibel,
Here.
Mr. Mannheim.
Here. Will you please rise for the pledge? All right. That takes us to our citizens' comments. And there are none. All right. Then that will take us to our superintendent's report. Dr. Pearson.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mannheim. Thank you so much for the opportunity. To begin tonight, I'd actually like to start with an introduction. As you are aware, we have appointed a new principal for St. Charles North High School to take Ms. Christensen's place beginning July 1st. And she's actually here this evening. So I'm going to invite her to the microphone just to say a word of introduction. Ms. Shanna Lewis.
You can see that. Hi, good evening. I'm Shanna, and I just want to take the opportunity to introduce myself. I am very excited about this opportunity. Everybody that I have come in contact with from St. Charles North in the district has been so helpful and supportive. I had an opportunity to walk the building this evening with Audra and learn a few things about not only the physical building, but some of the things that St. Charles North is working on. And I'm just excited to get to do the work and to meet more people in person. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to come here this evening and introduce myself, and I'm excited to work with you starting next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Ms. Lewis is coming to us most recently from Lyons Township High School District, and we are thrilled to have her joining our leadership team. I also wanted to just mention this evening that you know that we have a third round of grant funding coming from the federal government related to the COVID response. In this particular round, there is a requirement for a plan for reopening schools in the fall. And so we plan to put that together to meet the grant requirements. But we also have had a team that has been working on that since late winter, February, March timeline. That's comprised of the parents, students, and staff members that helped us last summer create our reopen plan for this year. So they've reconvened with Dr. Herman. They're having conversations about what we've learned and you know, what we want to try to maintain and what we need to change. And hopefully that information will help inform our planning process as we work to post a new plan to meet the new federal grant requirements. So it'll be posted on our website. There will be opportunity for public input, and then we'll of course bring it to the board for you to provide feedback as well. So the piece that's missing is the criteria. They haven't told us yet what has to be in the plan. They've just told us we have to do one. So we look forward to that information coming forward. I would also like to mention, you've had an opportunity as a board to meet on several occasions Mrs. Juanita Grafinsky, who is our nursing and health coordinator for the district. She was selected as a recipient of an award of excellence from in the faculty and licensed staff category from INSPRA. It's part of the Distinguished Service Awards program. And she will be receiving that award in a telecast or video broadcast on May the 21st. So I just want to congratulate Ms. Gravinsky, and she continues to provide outstanding leadership for us, particularly in this very challenging year as she supports our nurses across the district. So a much deserved recognition for her as well. And then I did want to mention, we're approaching the time of year when there are a lot of end of year celebrations and recognitions for our students and staff members. And I would just like to encourage you, if you don't regularly follow or participate with our Twitter account or our Facebook account, that you may want to add that as a place that you visit, because we're trying to post as many of those celebrations and recognitions as possible on that site so that you can be aware of some of the things that are going on. There's just some really neat experiences and opportunities that our students are participating in that are, some of them are happening in non-traditional formats, but at the same time, it provides us an opportunity maybe to experience it in a different way. So I don't know if any of you saw Project Dance last week was posted, and that was something that was really worth watching if you haven't had a chance to see that. And I know that there are several other things coming up as well that you might want to be able to have an opportunity to see. We also have some new programs in the district. Many of you know that we've launched a new podcast series, Voices of District 303, where we're able to highlight some of our students and staff members across the district. And we also have some other new communication and engagement strategies coming soon. And so if you kind of follow those two formats, you'll be able to maybe see what those are. So I wanted to have a moment to mention that to you as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Mannheim. That completes the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pearson. Any question or comment for Dr. Pearson? Okay, that will take us to our committee reports, and we'll start off with L&T. Mr. McNally.
Okay, L&T met on March 15th. We started with 3 citizens' comments, well, 2 citizens' comments, one went to the end. One was Nicole Cornea, opposing deep equity, Michelle Casile regarding the committee meeting process. For discussion, we had the discussion for the increased in-person learning. The discussion highlights included revised definition of social distancing between students and fully vaccinated individuals, masks, busing, and large space requirements for schools. Close contact definition for contact tracing, isolation, and quarantine, returning hybrid secondary and students to 5-day-a-week in person following the current bell schedule after spring break, leaving remote students on their remote schedules at all grades, continuing classroom capacity constraints with 3-foot distancing, adjusting bus routes and parking restrictions, state testing, family questionnaire, and communication timeline. The next item was regarding early release. Highlights for that discussion were high school traditional late start, early release twice a month for 51 minutes on Wednesday. This year, high school and middle school have weekly early release on Mondays. Excuse me, middle school early release started on January 28th and is 48 minutes. PLC time for elementary school this year is incorporated into the bell schedule for COVID-19. Moving forward, administration is recommending 2 options to consider for early release at all levels. To accommodate busing, all levels would be the same day. Option A, every week, all levels on Monday unless a holiday. Option B, every other week on Wednesday. Benefits include grade level and cross-level teams to meet, including specialist supports implementation, alignment, and fidelity of instruction. Allows for content area group meetings at secondary level, including continuity of instruction across school years and grade levels. Questions and discussions from the board included impact on classroom time and instructional minutes for the year, data needed to support considering a change, how will we know that loss of time and instruction is doing what we want it to do, what impact did other districts see when they added early release and late start time or late start time, elementary families impacted by the shorter day, the elementary day being longer to include teacher time, early release would be in addition to that time. Will teacher meeting time during the school day be reduced? Consideration to supervision for students waiting for extracurricular sports and activities. If a recommendation moves forward, would like to be a grade level specific, a vote for elementary, middle, and high school. Dr. Pearson will bring the discussion back to the April Learning and Teaching Committee meeting, which will be next week. Additional information will include how the time is going to be used, expectations for that time, and the trade-offs. We will be meeting on April 19th, and agenda items will include Title I school-wide waivers, continuing discussion of early release. We have requests for future discussions, summer school scheduling, and/or if more resources are required at high school, AP class progress across high schools, reconsideration of deep equity and additional discussion with data comparison of our subgroups to similar surrounding district subgroups. And there was also, at one point, we were discussing the potential for discussing math resources. And then we had one more citizen comment at the end of the meeting, and that was 5-day school changes, and that was Leah Lee. And again, I'd like to always remind people to visit the website and make sure that they see what's going on, so they don't have to wait and rely on this meeting and my reading of the minutes. And if they have any questions, they'll be able to come to the meeting and at least voice their concerns. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McNally. Business Services, Mr. Turgery.
Business Services Committee meeting was held on March 22nd. Standing items that we reviewed initially were the Mid-Valley and District 303 financial reports from month ending February 28th. We also reviewed the ongoing financial impacts of COVID-19. We received a health insurance update from Mr. Moore. I had the opportunity to ask a variety of questions related to the plan, given that we are self-insured. We also reviewed a proposed new supplemental savings plan that is going to be offered by the Teachers Retirement System. A resolution was presented to the committee. We held discussion on that, and that resolution will be on the meeting tonight. Correct?
No, so
No,
the
that's why I
state,
got thrown
we got some additional information from IASBO, which is the business officials organization, that the state's going to provide us with some more information about the plan. So we thought it would be important for the board to see that information prior to approving the resolution. So we'll be bringing it back once we receive the additional information from the state.
So what's the timing on getting that from the
Well,
state?
hopefully it's within the next month, because they wanted everyone to have approved the resolution by now. So we're hoping that they'll expedite it. But just like the board had, several questions about the details of the plan, I think other organizations across the state felt like to really approve the resolution, they needed to understand some greater detail. And so the state association advocated on the part of school boards, and we're going to have more information before we have to approve it.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you. Cash refund request for the Crystal Lofts. Return of land cash fees for Crystal Loft Development. That is on consent for this evening. In addition to that, there was an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the Park District and D303 was presented during discussion. That also is on consent. We had a lengthy discussion and review about an all-day kindergarten program. There were a variety of questions that were raised by the board. That is going to be brought back to future learning and teaching committee for further discussion. School fees for fiscal year 2021-2022 were also reviewed. That is also as presented on the agenda tonight. We reviewed a series of bids related to Compass Academy improvements. That is also on for consent tonight. We had a facility master plan update, and we reviewed the progress related to that. And meeting was adjourned at 6:54 p.m. And then our next business services meeting is in a couple weeks or a week and a half. Thank you.
All right, policy, Ms. Barker.
Policy was also on March 22nd and began at 5 p.m. and there were no citizens' comments. There were a number of policy manual updates, and I'll read through them as quickly as I can. Policy 340, Superintendent. Policy 480, Accounting and Audits, both had legal reference and footnote updates. Policy 490, Activity Funds, has been renamed to Student Activity and Fiduciary Funds. Fiduciary Funds is now a separate category from Student Activity. Policy 620, School Year Calendar and Day, had legal reference and footnote updates. Policy 6300, Graduation Requirements, reflected a modification to allow ISB to adopt rules modifying graduation requirements if the governor has declared a disaster due to a public health emergency. In addition, the policy updated it required it to not require annual state assessments if ISB receives the waiver from the Department of Education. Policy 6310, high school credit for non-district experiences, course substitutions, re-entering students. Now allows for course substitutions for registered apprenticeship programs. Policy 6320, high school credit for proficiency, reflects updates to the legal references and footnotes. Policy 6340, student testing and assessment program, reflects minor modifications. And then policy 730, student assignments and intra-district transfers, has been modified to remove outdated information pertaining to years prior to 2021. Policy 740, non-public school students, including parochial and homeschooled students, reflects the naming conventions in policy 730, excuse me. Policy 7100, health, eye, and dental examinations, immunizations, and exclusion of students, has been updated, prohibiting a school from withholding a child's report card during the school year when the governor has declared a disaster due to a public health emergency. And then minor improvements have been made to the policy and footnotes for that one. Policy 7140, searches and seizures, reflects updates to the legal references and footnotes. Policy 7300, extracurricular activities, again, legal references and footnote updates. The policy manual updates are on today's consent agenda, letter H. We also then had a short discussion of general parliamentary procedures, including motion procedures. And then the next meeting will be before business services on April 26th, and we adjourned at 5:20.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. McCabe, is there anything for CAC?
Mrs. Barker's going
Oh,
to report.
excellent. I'm sorry.
All right. So the Facilities Planning Committee, which includes the CAC, met in March before break, and then again, April 7th. On April 7th, the committee briefly reviewed school funding and the costs associated with the need statements that they had created earlier in the process. And then once they looked at those costs associated with some of those need statements and some of the beginnings of solutions they had come up with, I think there was a little bit of sticker shock. Lots of questions were asked. So the next steps will be to continue with solutions and then prioritizing those solutions. The group meets on April 22nd, and Mrs. McCabe is scheduled to be in attendance. Additional dates include May 6th and May 20th before their presentation to the board on June 14th.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Weibel, you have DPTO, did I hear that?
I do. Before I do that, I just want to remind from Business Services, remind the board that we do have a meeting to go over the architectural RFQ on April 19th at 6:30. So materials will drop off here for you tonight. So in preparation for that meeting. It's business service tied. So thought I'd throw.
I was going to mention it later, but if you're already
Okay,
mentioning it-
sorry.
No, that's fine. So I guess I'll just take a quick minute then.
Yes, please.
So everyone has it in front of them. The 6 questions are going to be sent to the firms, and they'll be included in the part of their presentation. And then attached to that is the rubric they'll be using. So kind of take a look at it, and then, as Ms. Weibel said, after that meeting, we'll meet to discuss that process after. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or Dr. Pearson.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I was just saving it for, I was saving it for the end. So
Okay,
it's
I
fine.
just want to make sure it was covered, so
Yep.
appreciate that. Okay, so DPTO met on March, let me see where those notes are, March 17th. And they went over, Dr. Pearson came in actually and spent a lot of time, not that you don't normally, but spent almost the whole time with us and explained to all the DPTO reps, the IDPH guidelines, in regards to 6 feet and 3 feet. And I thought it was a really great explanation because the 6 feet is in regards to, the 3 feet is in regards to safety. See, now I can't remember how you explained it. The 3 feet was in regards to health and safety, and the 6 feet, no, 6 feet is in regards to health and safety. 3 feet is in regards to education.
Yeah, so the change to the plan only applies to in-person learning.
Mhm.
And that allows you to be 3 to 6 feet. But when you are 3 to 6 feet, as we've discussed, you have to, you're considered a close contact if you have been in that space for 15 minutes or longer over the course of the school day.
But your excellent point was that one direction comes from IDPH and one direction comes from CDC. So those are two very different organizations. And so that was explained very well, and lots of questions came from that. We talked a lot about K through 5, middle school and high school, and what that looks like at our new implemented plan following spring break. We talked about how the pandemic is not over and what our new stage of crisis looks like. We answered questions from all the PTO reps. We talked about the survey that was sent out March 17th. There was questions specific about each school. And then the schools talked about, after Dr. Pearson left, their bylaws, signed companies for their banners. And then Dr. Pearson also talked about, and Carol talked about the podcast that we referenced today. If you haven't had a chance to listen to them, I highly recommend it. They're incredibly interesting and kind of exciting and imaginative, because especially the ones involving student conversation, they're really neat to listen to. We, the board, and a lot of the administration doesn't have the opportunity to interact with students as much as we normally do. So it's really a wonderful opportunity to hear what is going on in the classrooms. And I think was there anything else I'm missing? That seems like eons ago. The next one is April 21st at 9:30. Also over spring break, I had the opportunity to meet again with a group in South Elgin. It was on Friday, April the 2nd. It's a group called RISE, Racial Inclusion Support Equity. And it's made up of business owners, educators, aldermen, all sorts of people in South Elgin. And it's a great organization coming together and talking about how do you talk about equity in the community as a whole. They asked us to come and present the data we spoke about in regards to our schools, because they have a program right now in U46 that they are working with in their high school, in South Elgin High School, and how it's a student-run organization. And so they wanted to hear, because we had collected data, what our data looks like. So we shared our F report data, and Dr. Herman was kind enough to send some aggregate data that they had pulled together about some of the inequities that we see in the academic performance. And so Mr. Mannheim asked me to do that. So I did that. It was over break. So happy to do that. And they found it very enlightening. They want to come here and speak and talk about what they do. And I would love to work with D303 in the future. So they asked to partner with us down the line. So I'm not sure what the next step is, but I know it involves, I know Dr. Roosh, is she doctor? Okay, I was gonna say, if not, I just upgraded her. Dr. Roosh has already met with them, and I know they wanna work with the learning and teaching group in the future. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McNally, was there anything for housing?
Housing did meet. Unfortunately, I was not at the meeting because it conflicted with another schedule. However, they did send me the kind of the summary. So real quickly as I can do this, they were talking in the meeting about the home rehab and accessibility loan program. which is a program intended to help income eligible St. Charles homeowners maintain their homes, as opposed to what they often do is build a home for sale or rehab a home themselves for sale. Program offers 0% interest loan. Funds can be used for several maintenance items and also for accessibility and improvements such as exterior painting, siding, windows and roofs, drainage improvements, termite repair, yard cleanup, insulation, mechanical systems, repairs and improvements, and improvements and retrofits for physically disabled persons. And there's a list of those items. To qualify, household income cannot exceed 80% of the area median income. Home value cannot exceed $356,362. Property must be located within the St. Charles corporate limits. Unincorporated St. Charles is not eligible, and the house must be owner occupied and not a rental property. The next thing that funding of the program, real quickly, is from the St. Charles Housing Trust, which is trust fund supported by contributions from developers. They either have to reserve a percentage of new units as affordable housing or pay a fee in lieu of providing affordable units. So that's how they fund this program. And their financial summary real quickly: beginning balance was $749,016 and an ending balance of $698,178. There were developer contributions of $16,384 and affordable housing fund loan of $32,898. There's $319,500 in earmarked funds for the home rehab and accessibility loan program, first time home buyer loan program, and the Kane County Affordable Housing Fund. Those are respectively $31,500, $42,000, and $246,000. And that pretty much was it. If anybody's, the one last thing is, if anybody is interested and wants to determine eligibility, they can contact, they can call Community Contacts, which is the program, the company administering the program. It's an Elgin-based nonprofit. Their phone number is 847-697-8800. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNally. I intended intergovernmental, the last one, and then we got to be in person, so that was exciting. So everyone kind of gave updates. I think the big highlight was the library is getting close to reopening, and they're very excited. They're sad they'll be leaving us here at Haynes, but they're looking forward to being in their brand new space and offering all the programming. And I think that's kind of the big highlight. And then we said bye to a few of us that are leaving. So that's kind of the highlights of intergovernmental. So, all right, that concludes the committee reports. That takes us to our 4 action items. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the emergency expenditure of funds for individual student desks for social distancing?
So moved.
Ms. Weigel
Second.
and Mr. McNally. Any discussion? Okay. Ms. Marciano, you take roll.
Mrs. Fairgrave,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes.
Mrs. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Mannheim.
Yes, motion passes. That takes us to our consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like removed? Okay. Ms. Marciano. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mr. McNally.
Second.
Ms. Weibel.
Mr. Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes.
Mrs. Barker,
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave,
Yes.
Mr. Mannheim.
Yes, motion passes. That takes us to our forward information, which is our usual, our FOIA request, the financial reports for D303 and Mid Valley, the district enrollment, as well as the COVID-19 financial impact summary. We don't have any new business, so that takes us to our, I'm sorry, we do have, does anybody have new business?
Yes.
Ms. McKay, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
I have 2 items I'd like to suggest. One is to determine where it should fall, to do an equity audit I know that I am one of a couple of people who would like to have some data regarding the district and equity issues and concerns. And I'd like to put forth the idea of the IEA, the Illinois Education Association, which does do this. I don't have all the details, but that would be something that we could discuss. There may be other organizations people want to look at, but I would like to have a discussion about an audit to be done as soon as possible. And then the other piece that I would like to remind the board is that in this last year, we put together what we call our position practices for the officers who are here at the board table, and Mrs. Ratchford will be sending those out as a reminder as we come to seating a new board. We have to elect new officers immediately. So these components that we put together and agreed to may help in decision making as to whether or not one wants to run for that position and then voting. So that will be coming out from Mrs. Ratchford. And that's it.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm again going to repeat what I asked last time, because 3 key pieces of information that were either stated falsely, miscommunicated, or severely delayed. I'm calling for the rescission and reconsideration of the deep equity adoption in consideration of other, perhaps in-house programs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McNally. I had 2 things, and we kind of talked about them, which was our interview of the architects, which will take place after learning and teaching next Monday. And then just a reminder that, as Ms. McCabe said, there'll be a new board, and that will take place after business services in 2 weeks. So there's only 2 things I had for new business. And so we don't have anything for discussion. So are there any citizens' comments? There are no citizen comments. And we don't have closed session tonight. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ms. Weibel,
Second.
Mr. McNally.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes.
Mrs. Barker,
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mr. Mannheim.
Yes, we are adjourned at 7:33. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.